Hey, this is Wes with Missouri Wind and Solar. Thanks for checking out our YouTube video today. In our video today, we're going to do a DIY project of a solar generator that you can build yourself and put it together however you want to, but the unit we've got here today is right around 500 bucks, and comparable units on Amazon run between 900 to really the sky's the limit, but comparable to what we're going to put together in this video, about $1,800–$1,900. So this is a great project that you can do on a weekend and have a solar generator. So let's go over to the workstation and we'll start putting it together. We started looking into the solar generators. We first started out that we just wanted to carry them and bring some units in. So we did some evaluations of a few units. And what we ended up determining is great concept, very cool, but the pre-bought units, the pre-assembled units, you've got no idea what you're getting in those. Another big thing is if any component within that fails, now you're in a situation where there's nothing you can do with it. So now you're down to returning the whole unit, you're going to be without the unit. And that's why we kind of came full circle back to what we do incredibly well, which is do it yourself. And so we started putting this box idea together and putting in superior components, and actually our overall costs on this are pretty substantially less than a comparable unit that, again, if you went out to Amazon and bought it, you'd spend a lot more and have a unit that you just don't know what it's about. Let's walk through. I'm going to start off. This is our this is just a rigid box that we picked up at Home Depot. It was about 60 bucks. What I want to make sure I'm clear throughout this whole video is that this generator is whatever you want to make it out to be. If you want to get larger batteries than what I'm going to show you here, then you need a larger box. If you don't want it wheeled, then get a smaller box, but your battery size is going to change. The bottom line is that the components and how this come together doesn't change in the overall concept if you want to do something different. And so we'll do links in our video here to where you can get these components, and then we're also going to do a blog post with this so you can see a little more stepped process on how we put all this together. So let's zero in here and let me show you what we did to this box to get it prepped for our solar generator. So this is our rigid box. I'll go over the rest of our components here in just a minute, but I wanted to show you the cuts that we've already made on this box to keep our video time down. Took us several hours to put all this together, but that's probably mostly me out with the tools, and my guys, none of them will take responsibility for what I did to the box. So this is all me. But basically what we did in advance on this rigid box is I drilled some holes in here. This is where our fan's going to go. I pre-cut the area. This is where our charge controller is going to come through. I'll turn it here a little bit. This space down here, that's where our AC plug is actually going to come out. And then this may be a little bit tough to see back here, but we've got two holes pre-drilled. This is where the leads from our solar panel are going to come into. So that's the basics of this box. That's kind of an inside view, and we'll get into this further. But I also want to take you through the rest of the components that we're going to be using in this video. I've got our components laid out here that we're going to use inside of the box. The first thing we talk about is our battery. This is a sealed AGM battery. This is a 40 amp hour Northstar. So it's capable of storing 480 watts, of which 240 is usable. So a big thing again, you could put whatever battery that you want in there. This just happens to be the one that we're choosing for these purposes. I've went ahead and pre-wired my AC box. This is just an old work single gang box. And so this is kind of a weird looking one, but it's the one that they had up at the hardware store. I've got my cables pre-cut here, and I've got some lugs already crimped on everything. It looks really great. That's because I had the other guys do that. I didn't do those, so I had the guys do that. I've got my MC4 spanner wrenches. These are very critical to have with your solar generator because you're going to want to disconnect those solar panels when you're moving this, when you're putting this in the back of your truck, your van, whatever. You're going to want to disconnect this, and this makes that process very simple. I went ahead and I've got my shims that I'm using here already cut. Nobody wants to see me running a chop saw. I've got a DC fan. We carry this here at the store, and that's just to keep the heat, keep the temperature as cool as possible. My solar charge controller here, this is a PWM that we carry. This is a 10 amp. This is a really awesome unit for the price. You've actually got USB ports on here. Very cool, because we're going to have this coming out of the face of the box. And then you've got the load button here. We're going to use that to power the fan off and on. But you got your display to display all the pertinent information. So this is a really cool charge controller. You could use any number of charge controllers to do this. This just happens to be the one that we wanted to put in this video. And then the last that we're going to look at here, this is our SkyMax 600 watt pure sine inverter. Your choice of inverter is going to come into play with what do you want to use this for, but it's also, you're going to have to make it play well with the battery, with the solar panels, to make everything so that you're not hurting your battery. I mean, that's one of the main things you'll do, or just flat out running out of power. But this is again, one of the ones that we carry here. This is our SkyMax brand. And before we move on, I just want to hit the notes again that these are all components that we are choosing, that we are picking out for a specific reason. It's not this all-in-one, tote that you're buying from Amazon, that if you didn't want X, that you got Y instead, but you wanted Z and you couldn't get A. All of this is configured however you want to configure it. So let's start putting this together. The first thing that we're going to do is grit and groan and bring in the battery. And in this particular box, the big thing that we were looking at here was the displacement, the placement of the weight. So we wanted this weight on this back portion, back on the wheels, and then this extra little bar back here gives it that added security. Then what we had pre-cut are these shims, and we're going to drop that in and basically just take some self-tapping screws and drill into these ends and just secure that battery right there. All right, so we've got this shim set up in here to keep that battery from moving. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to run my my AC plug on in here. And like I said, I already got this pre-wired. And this is designed, I know you can't see it right now, but the wings are over here, and that really just tips in there. Looks great on that side. Okay? And basically, I'm just going to lay that aside until I get ready to put my my inverter in and plug all that up. I want to make sure that we say this often. We do not plug the solar panels in until last. We also don't have the charge controller. We don't do anything with the charge controller until it's hooked to the batteries, because if the charge from the solar panels come through without the charge controller being hooked up, you're going to toast it. So okay, so the next thing that I'm going to come on in here and do is get a preset down here, basically where we're going to put in the inverter. So I've got these two shims. Now, what I would probably do, we just didn't have any handy right now, but what I probably do is use some type of adhesive just to keep these in place. I wouldn't necessarily drill them in because I don't want to break the integrity of that bottom. So, maybe just some liquid nails, something like that, to hold those in. Now, my inverter is then just going to set on those, and then I'm going to set these in, but I'm really just sizing everything up right now. So there's my plug. It's going to plug into this end right here. I've got my inputs from the battery set up right here, and then we're going to drop the charge controller in here. Now, so this is all going to get kind of all in one as we start to wire everything together. what I've got my cables that the guys pre-made for me, and basically I'm going to go ahead and connect those up. But I'm not connecting to my battery yet because those connections come closer to the end of all this. So, but I want to go ahead and get these on. Now, in this case, what I'm looking for in how my cables are placed is we specifically got our cables sized so that we can run the negative cable around the side of the battery and my positive up over the top, so that my connections here just don't have a real chance of getting together. So I'm going to drop this back in here for now, just make sure everything looks good. I don't have my poles open here, but basically these are going to go right here like this. And like I said, I'm not going to connect that up until I got everything looking the way I want to. In this case too, just to keep everything looking the way we want it to be, I can go ahead and have that connected up. And so this looks good. Everything kind of fits in here well. And so now I want to move on to getting my fan and my charge controller put in place. Actually, I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put my MC4 connections in here. So this is a specific connector that we've got here at the store. It's called a bulkhead. It's MC4 bulkhead. It's designed for this type of application. And we've got these. You can buy them on the website. But this makes just your inputs look a little cleaner and makes everything a much snugger type of connection. So I've got this PV cable. They're already set up. Basically, I'm just running this through the back here. And these have just some nylon nuts that go on here. We'll get these snugged up. I'll show you this other side in just a second. And so, again, you've got a real clean connection here. I'm going to spin this around. And then this is where you're going to actually hook your solar panels into. And this is also where you would need that spanner wrench to disconnect them from here also. But this is your lead in. So we've got that set up in here. And now we're set up to do the charge controller. So we've taken our charge controller and we've got some shims on here to make it work in the box well. But our idea is going to be that display comes through like that. And then we've got the back of this here. The big thing that you need to consider is that your inputs from all your cabling comes in here to make sure that that's got clearance out the back of this. So what I'm going to do on my charge controller, it may be a little bit difficult to see because they're just punched in here, but I've got my solar panels, I've got my batteries, and then I've got my load. And so we're going to wire all these up, and then we'll go through and put the charge controller in place. All right, so I've got my wiring done here. I've got my leads for my battery. Obviously, they're not hooked up yet like we talked about. These are my leads coming in from my MC4 bulkhead. It's still not connected to the solar panels. Keynote, we do not have it all hooked up yet, so don't charge them with solar panels. The last thing I'm going to show you right here might be, again, a little bit difficult to see. These are my lines coming in from my DC fan. So it's got a normal, negative, and positive. It's got this blue line. You can just cut this off. That's a control for variable speed. So we don't use that here. So we can just cut that off, but I wanted to show it. So then what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully drop this in over here. Okay. And I'll show, again, we'll take a look at this from the back side. But I've got my shims set up here, and I can drill straight into these. And then the last thing I'm going to do inside the box is put the fan in, because it's the least important thing as far as how we lay things out. It's very important to have it, but it's okay that we're going to put it in last. So let me get some screws, and we'll set the charge controller in. Just making it real simple right here. I'm going to pop this with a couple of self-tapping screws. You could certainly very easily make this look better than what I am doing. But I just want this to kind of stay. So we've got the charge controller settled here, which is a big deal, because now that I've got that in place, let's just get this blue. Just going to get it out of the way. Okay, the fan, connecting it in here is a little bit difficult to see, but I'm just going to talk you through it, and then we'll go ahead and put this on here. Basically, these fans have these pre-drills right here, and I'm going to mount that. Now that I've got my charge controller where I want it, I'm going to mount it such that it's going to blow cool air in there for the battery. So the other thing that you could do is you could turn the fan around and create a suction, and then drill some holes maybe somewhere back here over where the battery is, and you could suck cool air in. I'm just doing it this way. Whichever way you want to do is fine. So I'm going to hook this up real quick. All right, so we're getting ready now to basically secure our inverter. I've had it loose in here because of all the cabling we're moving around. But basically what I'm going to do is just kind of line it up now. I've got a couple of spots here where I can drop a screw in there, real simple, and then mount it onto those brackets down below. At this point, we've got everything hooked together except bringing our battery into the loop. And again, I can't reiterate this enough, or in any situation, we do not want power coming into the charge controller. So no solar panels are connected, even though we have these leads connected in. No power coming to the charge controller unless the charge controller is hooked to a battery. If you do that, you will get to buy another charge controller, and we'll be happy to sell you another one, but we'll all be sad. So at this point, I'm going to pop the cover off of here, and I'm going to connect into my battery. And I've got my cable for my inverter there. So let me get these all lined up. Okay, so I've got my inverter hooked up, I've got my charge controller hooked up, same thing on my negative side. The internal of my box, pretty much done. And so we'll do some still shots of this so you can see exactly how this is laid out. So what I'm gonna do is take this down, and then we'll move it around here and get the final where we're doing the AC side of it, and we'll trim it out. Get the top on, and we'll put a solar panel on here, and we'll show you how to finish up your solar generator. Oh, and before we do that, I wanted to roll this up here real quick and just show you our charge controller is functioning. There's our fan, and so to turn our fan on, you should hear. So our fan is running off the battery right now. Our front part of this is all looking good. We may want to come in here with some caulk or something and make that look a little better, but that's what the front of this looks like. And of course you got your USBs right there on this particular controller. So let's turn that off, and we'll finish out the AC side. So the last thing I want to do is, since we've got this set up as an exterior AC outlet, I've got basically the washer that goes around there, and then I'm going to slap this on right here. All right, and we're pretty much done. We'll get this down off the cart, throw a solar panel on here, hook it into the back, and we'll finish it up. All right, so this is what the finished unit looks like. We've just pulled one of our 100-watt panels off the wall. I'm going to show you real quick. These are your leads coming out of the panel, and it's really just as simple as coming down here to these connections coming out of the box, and bam. you're pretty much wired in now. So the solar panel is generating. It's netting against whatever you're running out of there. It's keeping the battery charged. And the simple thing is that when I'm ready, I just disconnect these, pull this off, throw it in the truck and go. This is Wes with Missouri Wind and Solar. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and we'll keep bringing you some more videos.